It had been years since she walked out of my life, leaving behind broken promises and memories of a love I once believed was unbreakable. I still remember the day she left, carrying only a suitcase and the certainty of someone else's arms. I tried to move forward, but the emptiness stayed with me. Later, through mutual friends, I learned she had a baby, a child with the man she had left me for. The news cut deep, reopening wounds I thought had finally healed. I buried myself in work, friendships, and a life I rebuilt piece by piece, even as memories of betrayal crept back like shadows in the dark. Time passed, but the impact of her choice never fully disappeared. I learned how to live without her, how to guard my heart from the pain she caused. Still, part of me wondered what I would do if our paths ever crossed again. Years later, that moment arrived without warning. I was at a charity event downtown when I saw her across the room, holding her child in her arms. Time seemed to stop. She hadn't expected to see me. Her confident stride faltered, her face went pale, and for a moment she was completely speechless. The crowd buzzed around us, unaware of the storm sparked by that single glance. Memories of betrayal, heartbreak, and abandonment rushed back, mixed with a calm sense of control I hadn't anticipated. In that instant, I realized the woman who once held power over my emotions had no idea how much I had changed. I stood tall and composed, carrying a quiet authority that immediately unsettled her. The child in her arms, innocent and unaware, contrasted sharply with the tension between us, making the moment feel surreal, almost cinematic. She approached cautiously, unsure whether to speak, her usual confidence replaced by uncertainty. "It's been a long time," she murmured, her eyes darting nervously. I nodded slightly, my voice calm and deliberate. "Yes, it has," I replied, letting the words linger. The child gripped her finger, oblivious to the tension beneath the surface. Her eyes searched my face for anger, hurt, or weakness, but found none. The man who once loved her without question was gone. In his place stood someone steady, composed, and in control. Each step she took reminded her of her choices, her betrayal, and the life she had chosen over me. I let the silence stretch, forcing her to face her guilt without a single accusation. The room seemed to shrink, everyone else fading away, as if our shared history had created a private, charged space. I watched her struggle, weighing whether to apologize, explain, or retreat. I gave her none of the confrontation she expected. Instead, I observed every subtle shift in her expression, every small reaction. Her lips trembled, her fingers fidgeted, and her posture revealed a nervousness she hadn't shown in years. The balance of power had shifted completely. For the first time in a long while, I was in control. I allowed a small, knowing smile to appear, just enough to make her wonder what I was thinking. Enough to show her that her past choices no longer ruled my life. Her child, innocent and unaware, was the only distraction from the charged silence, yet even that couldn't shield her from the truth. The man she left behind had grown beyond her reach. The twist she never expected wasn't revenge, but a quiet display of strength and dignity. Finally, I spoke, my voice steady and calm. "I hear you've built a life," I said, glancing briefly at the child in her arms. Her eyes widened, a flicker of panic breaking through her composure. "Yes, I have," she replied softly, unsure where this was leading. I nodded, letting the pause speak for me, showing that I had forgotten nothing and forgiven nothing, yet was no longer ruled by resentment. My calm unsettled her more than anger ever could. She realized the man she had walked away from no longer existed, that she had lost all power over me. In that quiet moment, she understood that years of absence had changed me into someone she could neither control nor intimidate. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say more. I stopped her gently. There's no need for explanations, I said, firm but calm. Your choices brought you here. I built my own life while you were figuring out yours. Her hands shook slightly as she held her child closer, grounding herself. The silence between us was heavy, filled with unspoken truths and regrets. She had expected anger, maybe tears, but not quiet confidence. She realized her actions had consequences beyond her control, and that I had risen above the pain, unshaken by her presence. The ending she never imagined wasn't public humiliation, but a quiet, undeniable truth. I had moved on, stronger and wiser. For a moment, she simply stared, unable to speak. I let her sit with it, letting the weight of her choices settle fully. She had walked away from love, trust, and years of shared dreams for another man. And seeing me again in that moment, she confronted the consequences of her choices. In real time, I stayed calm and composed, a living reminder that her betrayal had not broken me, but had unintentionally made me stronger. The child in her arms shifted, studying me with quiet curiosity, and the innocence in that gaze stood in sharp contrast to the tension between us. The room, full of other attendees and unaware of our shared history, faded into the background. The only truth that mattered was the moment between us, a moment she could neither control nor escape. At last, I stepped back, giving her space, and said softly, I hope you've learned the value of what you had and lost. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her speechless, frozen, and forced to face the consequences of her decisions. I hadn't shouted, raised my voice, or humiliated her. My revenge existed in my calm, unshakable presence, the strength I had built during the years she was gone. She could never have imagined that seeing me again would stop her cold, leaving her powerless before the very person she had once abandoned. And as I walked out, I understood that the ultimate twist, the one that hurt more than any words, was not public but deeply personal. She had lost a man who once loved blindly, only to find him changed, untouchable, and completely